85 million people, entire cities turned to ashes, and a war that changed the course of human history forever. But the most disturbing part, none of this happened by accident. This is the story of World War II, a story where fear, ambition, and human mistakes led to a global catastrophe. After World War I, Europe was left in ruins. Millions were dead, economies were shattered, and entire empires had collapsed. The world wanted stability, but what it got instead was a fragile and temporary peace. In 1919, the Treaty of Versailles was signed. It was meant to prevent another war, but in reality, it planted the seeds for an even bigger conflict. Germany lost territory, its military was severely limited, and it was forced to pay massive reparations. This was not just a defeat, it was humiliation. The country's economy collapsed. Inflation became so extreme that money could lose its value within hours. People lost their jobs, their homes, and their sense of hope. And in times like these, people start looking for someone to blame and someone to follow. That's when a man appeared who promised to change everything: Adolf Hitler. He spoke in simple, powerful ideas. He promised to restore national pride, rebuild the economy, and give people a sense of purpose. But behind those promises was a dangerous ideology built on control, expansion, and hatred. Through propaganda, fear, and political manipulation, he slowly rose to power, and many people didn't just support him, they believed in him. Meanwhile, the rest of the world watched. As Germany began violating the Treaty of Versailles, many countries chose not to act. Britain and France hoped to avoid another war at all costs. This approach became known as appeasement. They believed that by making concessions, they could prevent conflict. But instead, they encouraged it. In 1938, the Munich Agreement allowed Germany to take part of Czechoslovakia. It did not stop Hitler. It convinced him that no one would stand in his way. Then, in 1939, something happened that shocked the world. Germany and the Soviet Union signed a non-aggression pact. Secretly, they agreed to divide Eastern Europe between them. Just days later, Germany invaded Poland. On September 1st, 1939, World War II began. Germany introduced a new kind of warfare: blitzkrieg or lightning war. Fast-moving attacks, coordinated tanks and air power, and the rapid destruction of communication systems. Poland fell within weeks. Then came Western Europe. France, one of the strongest military powers at the time, collapsed in just 6 weeks. The speed of it all stunned the world. For a moment, it seemed like Germany was unstoppable. But in 1941, everything began to change. Germany launched an invasion of the Soviet Union. At first, the advance was successful. Massive territories were captured, and German forces pushed deep into Soviet land. But then reality set in. The distances were enormous. Supply lines stretched too far. Resources became scarce. And then came the winter. One of the most critical turning points was the Battle of Stalingrad. The city was reduced to rubble. Fighting happened street by street, building by building. It became one of the bloodiest battles in human history. And in the end, Germany lost. From that moment on, the balance of the war began to shift. At the same time, the war expanded across the globe. In December 1941, Japan attacked the United States naval base at Pearl Harbor. This brought the United States into the war, and everything changed. The United States became an industrial powerhouse. Factories operated around the clock, producing weapons, vehicles, and supplies on an enormous scale. Women entered the workforce in large numbers, taking on roles that had traditionally been held by men. This transformation reshaped society. In 1944, Allied forces launched a massive invasion of Nazi-occupied France. The D-Day landings in Normandy marked the opening of a second front in Europe. Germany was now fighting on two sides. Its resources were draining, its forces were weakening. By 1945, Allied troops were closing in on Berlin. The city was in ruins. The situation was hopeless. The regime that once seemed unstoppable was collapsing. But the war was not over yet. In the Pacific, fighting continued between the United States and Japan. And then, a decision was made that would change the world forever. The United States used atomic weapons. Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Two cities were nearly destroyed in seconds. For the first time, humanity witnessed the true power of nuclear weapons. Shortly after, Japan surrendered. World War II was over, but its consequences were only beginning. Europe was devastated. Millions were homeless. Entire economies had to be rebuilt from nothing. The United Nations was created in an effort to prevent future global conflicts. But peace was not absolute. A new tension emerged between global powers. The Cold War had begun. And perhaps the most important thing to remember is the human cost. More than 85 million people lost their lives. Most of them were civilians. These were not just numbers. They were families, children, lives filled with dreams suddenly gone. Imagine living in a city under constant bombing, not knowing if you will survive the night, losing everything you have ever known. That is what war truly means. World War II ended in 1945. but its impact is still with us today. History is not just about the past, it is a warning. And the question remains, will humanity learn from it or repeat it again?